I am quite embarrassed to say this, but the radio doesn't sit right with me anymore. I was fine with it before, but that was until I found a station that gives me chills to this day. It actually wasn't too long ago, about 6 months, I think. I was driving from visiting my parents in Alabama, like I do every year. And on my way back to Florida, I decided to switch the radio station. It was dark and no one was really driving on the road. I looked over at the time, 2:35 a.m. I came to the decision that I should just go to the nearest hotel or motel I see to rest. I found a hotel and got a room. "I'll continue in the morning," I whispered softly to myself. I laid down on the bed, but I couldn't go to sleep. I grabbed my phone, had it placed on my dresser. No Wi-Fi. I sighed as I spoke silently to myself. Then I noticed a small radio on the table. I sat up to grab it. Oh, maybe I can find some calm music to listen to. I turned the stations. Rock, pop, rap, country, even more country. Wait, some classical stuff. Nice, I whispered to myself. I set the radio down and laid back. As it continued to play and I was just falling asleep, I suddenly heard a voice. It wasn't the usual loud radio voice. It was very deep, calm, and kind of soft. I was going to turn to another station, but finally decided against it. I just lay there and listened to the strange voice. "Hello, night dwellers, and welcome to 100.6 The Abyss. We have some very interesting topics to talk about tonight, but a heads up for all of you in certain parts of Alabama, heavy storms will be coming tomorrow. Looks like 2 school shootings have happened in the past month, and it was said the shooter was caught. Too bad. I was really hoping he would escape, and I know I'm not the only one." He gave a slight chuckle and continued, but I was stuck on what he said. Hoping he would escape? I thought to myself, did I hear that right? "Okay, folks, looks like I'll be giving the rest of the night to Henry." A man with a rougher voice came on. "Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be taking calls now, and we'll start this off with a call from Blake. How you doing, Blake?" A guy with a shaky voice came on, sounding much like a kid or a teenager, but it was hard to tell. I wanted to say, first off, I've been listening to this show for some time. I'm a big fan, but I need help, man." "What would you need help with today?" the man asked calmly. There was a short pause. "I don't want to go to prison. I'm only 14. I don't know what to do. I think I forgot the rules." The kid was terrified, I could tell from his voice. "I just killed my parents," he stumbled nervously. "Okay, I see," Henry said with a pause. "So, here's what you do. Remember the 3 rules. First off, don't panic. It's your first kill. You must not get nervous. Secondly, I hope you wore gloves, because you now have to I stopped listening to what he said, because I was too shocked. Was this really happening? Was this man really giving this kid advice on how to kill and what to do with the bodies? I just couldn't believe it. To make it even scarier, he sounded like a younger me. I lay back down in the bed and fell asleep, awaking the next morning to the sound of rain. I sighed. Well, I still have to get home, I mumbled to myself. I put on my jacket and proceeded to walk out of the hotel. I walked to the front desk and gave the keys to the receptionist. Before I walked away, I had decided to ask him a question. Have you heard of a station called 100.6 The Abyss? He looked at me with a confused look and said, No, I haven't, I'm sorry. And with that I had left and went to my car to continue my journey to Miami. It soon started to grow dark again, and I realized I had to stop once more in Florida before I got to Miami. This time it was a motel. The whole complex was pretty clean and in a very good condition. I got a room for that night, and after unpacking some of my things, I lay back down in bed again to get some rest for the next part of my journey. The strange thing is, I couldn't sleep, because that radio station still bothered me. I looked in my bag and there was a small radio. I took it out of my bag and switched it to the station 100.6. I remember there being nothing but static at first, so I waited, and just before falling asleep, with my eyes feeling very heavy, the classical music suddenly came on. I had glanced over to the clock on the radio at 3 a.m. Suddenly I heard a loud thud outside. I stood up and rushed to the curtains to get a peek out of the window. It was no longer raining, but I could clearly see a man stumbling out of one of the motel doors, walking to what I assumed was his car. At that moment, another car door opened, and a woman stepped out of it. She was clearly screaming at the man, from what I could barely hear through the closed window. The man paid no attention to the woman while she took something out of her purse and jumped on the man. I saw the man and woman fall, but only one came back up, and it was the woman. She turned her head to see if anybody saw, and our eyes locked. I quickly closed the curtains and went back to lie down. At that time, I heard classical music playing. I looked at the time, 3:30 a.m.
Hello, night dwellers, and welcome to 100.6 The Abyss. Today I'll be taking over because Henry wasn't feeling so well. We have a caller who has been dying to be on the show tonight. She's told us something amazing that all you would love to hear, I'm sure. Hello?
A woman was on the phone. She sounded very hysterical, rambling on and on, without understanding a word she's saying. She was almost sounding like my dead wife. When the man then says in a very deep, angry tone,
"Can you please shut..."
He stopped himself and sighed, and then changing back to his original tone.
"Can you please reword what you're trying to say?"
The woman continued. "I stabbed my boyfriend, and I think somebody saw me. What do I do?"
"Here's what you do."
He paused for a few seconds, then continued.
"Dispose of your boyfriend's body first. Then you're going to have to silently deal with the Watcher."
I quickly turned off the radio, my heart beating fast. My palms were sweaty. "Oh crap," I mumbled to myself, and rushed to the window again to peek out of it. My darkest imagination of what I would see came true. She was walking in my direction with an angry, grim look on her face. "Oh crap," I angrily say out loud, pressed my back against the wall beside the window to catch my breath again. When I peeked out of the window the next time, the woman wasn't there. I knew she was coming for me,
so I looked around the room to grab something. Anything to protect myself from her. I found a short metal pole under my bed. I grabbed it and hid behind the door. I was not going to just die standing there unarmed. I had to fight back if I were to stay alive. I thought of the radio station. I'm definitely reporting it to the police. I put my ear to the door and listened. Nothing. For some time at least, until I heard the clicking of shoes coming down the hall. I decided to quietly move to the closet. It's safe there, I thought to myself, as I waited for the knock. In mid-thought, the knocks that I waited for came. Knock, knock, knock. They had gotten harder with each minute of me not answering. "I know you're in there." The woman's voice came through the door as I heard the doorknob rattle. Within seconds, the door had opened, and through a crack in the closet I was hiding in, I saw the mad woman holding a knife, looking for me. She threw back the curtains furiously, then looked under the bed and finally looking straight at the closet door. I don't know how to explain it, but when she looked at me, there was pure evil in her eyes. I could have sworn I saw a large shadow behind her. She slowly walked forward, with what seemed like a butcher's knife in her hand. I gripped the pole I held in my hands tighter, and as she flung open the doors, I smashed the pole right into her side, as if I hit a home run in a baseball game. She went down with a scream, possibly ending her life, but saving mine. I looked at her body on the now blood-stained floor, and the dark presence had seemed to have left her. To make a long story somewhat shorter, I called the police, told them everything that happened from the radio station to the woman, minus the dark presence I felt. The woman wasn't dead, and only had minor abdominal injuries. I was there when the police questioned her. She kept insisting she remembered nothing what happened, but did remember the station. She started crying for her boyfriend and didn't recall stabbing him, saying she loved him too much to do such a thing. The strange thing is, she called him a name, something only my wife used to call me. Her boyfriend also wasn't dead, only minor stab wounds. The police couldn't find anything on the radio station and said it didn't exist. So I did what anyone else would do. I took to the internet. Turns out 100.6 The Abyss goes by another name, the Devil's Radio. And whoever listens to it, something bad is bound to happen to them. The few people that had an experience with it also hear what seemed like familiar voices to them, as if it was a radio for the truly corrupt people of this world. In the news I read something about the stabbing, and there was the kid I heard on the radio. If this incident was real, would that make the radio real? The questions all seemed too much, so I pushed it aside, hoping to somehow forget about it. I could have written about this as soon as it happened, but I didn't, because nothing seemed to affect me, and it seemed all like a dream. It's been 6 months since then. I'm now writing about this because I've been waking up with blood on my hands and on my clothes. I also never could remember what happened that night for the blood to be there. But when I woke up at 3 a.m. in the morning, my cell phone was already ringing. Unknown number, it said. I hesitantly answered the phone with a surprised "Hello?" All I could hear before I hung up in a panic and threw the phone in a corner of the room was, "Hello, night dwellers. Our next call